Hi everyone, it's John Thuma here from Datameer, and I'm here to give a presentation on a hot new thing that we've announced yesterday here at the Strata conference called Eureka, or what we call visual exploration. But before we get into that, let's go over a capabilities overview. First of all, we have a very unique spreadsheet interface that is familiar to business user. 270 analytic functions built into the box, 70 plus connectors built in. The good thing about this is that it's familiar to our business analysts and it's familiar to our business data users. If you're familiar with Excel, which is the world's largest database on the planet, then you're going to be right at home with Datameer, right? Not only with that, but we have what we call a formula builder, and this formula builder is a user-guided interface for wrangling data and transforming your data. And it's a simple guided interface that allows you to, basically, your business analysts to be able to do whatever they need to do. And of course, we have our flip side, which is our profiler, which profiles all the data in your columns in your workbook, right? So this is a very powerful feature for looking for outliers and looking for different data oddities in your source systems. And then we have this sheet dependency graph, and this is really a spider diagram of all the different tabs that are in your workbook, and it shows how they all the lineage of all the tabs as they work together to form a resulted data set and a transformation. So, and then another thing we have is something called Smart Analytics. And Smart Analytics is really 4 different functions. We have a recommendations engine, we have a column dependencies, which is a correlations, we have a k-means clustering algorithm, and other things. And this comes standard out of the box. What's great about this is that as you drag and drop different fields into the window there, you can actually see your advanced analytics capability come to life. So what we're looking at is the correlation feature, which is one of the most powerful things in the box. But what's really interesting is our Datameer Visual Explorer. And this is really a game changer. And you can tell I spent a lot of time on these slides because I didn't want to really overdo the slides here. So I got a generic black and white slide. And the reason is because the Visual Explorer is a pretty amazing product on its own. Big data has big problems, and let's face it, let's be realistic. Development complexity. Over the last 25 to 30 years, I've worked on very large database systems, from petabyte systems to terabyte systems, and I've always had some level of a fixed schema. I've had to be a developer. I've had to know what I was doing. The 3 most expensive letters in data warehousing are ETL, extract, transform, and load. Having to have a data from a source and mapping it into a star schema or a snowflake schema is something that is very complicated to do and requires very expensive people. Right? And then you have slow performance, right? Slow performance means that I only can answer use cases that I can respond to in the time that I get my answer back, which greatly limits what you can do with your data, right? And then of course, my business needs are constantly under change, which means that my schema may have to change. That means I may have to do different things, right, to make my analytics work again, right? As my business questions change, so does my schema. So we've all talked about schemaless infrastructures. And so over the past 25 to 30 years, I've worked on things like Teradata, Netezza, SQL Server, and all kinds of things, building out snowflake schemas and star schemas and whatnot. I've built OLAP cubes with Essbase. I've built all these things, right? MDX queries, Microsoft SQL Server implementations of OLAP, and of course we've built our roll-up systems, which is just basically building up roll-ups that are rolled up by month or by week or by year or something of that nature. We've always had a fixed schema. The second that we could not answer those questions, we had to go back and redo that schema, which means I have to go back and find people like John Thuma and other people that know how to develop these solutions, and these people are expensive and hard to find, right? Then we got to in-memory systems like Spark and HANA and things like that. Well, those too have a very rigid schema and can be very expensive and difficult to implement. Trust me, I've worked with startups with the Spark backend. They're extremely complicated and hard to use, right? Also, you're not just going to turn PySpark over to your business user. You're not going to do that, right? And then GPUs. The hottest thing today is GPUs. And again, it's a fixed piece of hardware, right? Well, what I'm about to show you requires no rigid schema, requires none of these 5 things. And that's important, okay? So let's go ahead and take a look. So I'm going to log in, and what you're looking at is Datameer. And everything that you're familiar with Datameer is still available in the box. 270 functions. I have 70 plus connectors. I can connect to just about anything, right? And what you're looking at here is our workbook interface. So I'm not doing anything special to the data. There's no rigid schema. I literally could import data into Datameer and go right to visual exploration. So let's go ahead and take a look. So here's all my columns that are associated with my worksheet, right? I come in here like so, and I click Visual Explorer. You'll see that all those columns are now listed down below here, right? And what's neat is that as I start to click in and explore, I'm going to choose my Medicare allowed amount and my Medicare payment amount, you're going to see that the visual automatically associates with that. Now, what's critical here is we're looking at 80 million records, and we can look at hundreds of millions to billions of records. We are doing this all in Hadoop. Let me repeat that, because it's really critical. 80 million records instantly came up in Hadoop, no memory, no Spark, no fixed schema, none of that, right? So now what we're looking at is a scatter plot. If I wanted to, I could zoom in, and this is all 80 million records. I can zoom in on a specific area of this particular scatter plot, and I can take a look at the outliers. I can take a look at different things. But the other neat thing is I can actually start to drill down, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to choose my provider type. And here we go. So now we're going to focus in on all those 80 million parts by provider type. And as you can see, I've got all these other things here, right? So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to choose my data service. I'm going to slide this over, and we're actually going to we're going to put a where clause in there, kind of, sort of, and we're actually going to have this come back in under 4 seconds. That's pretty incredible. I mean, this is all on Hadoop, no rigid schema, 80 million records. We can go to hundreds of millions and billions of records, and we can achieve the same result. I think that's pretty incredible. But let's go ahead. I want to show you another type of visualization. We'll come back out, like so, and we'll choose our HICPIC description. And it'll give you an indication of here's how fast the data comes back across 80 million records. And now I can choose my visualization type. We have our stack bar chart right here. Right? Now I want to take a look at the male and female population that is associated with that, plot. So now we're replotting by gender here, and I can then, if I need to, I can drill down and I can explore just on that particular area, and I start the whole process over, but I'm only looking at that limited scope of data. Again, 80 million records, 9 nodes of Hadoop. This is not a very large cluster. This is standard Hadoop cluster. No memory, no fixed schema, none of that, right? So we'll go ahead and we'll cancel out of that, but let's take a big risk here. I'm actually going to slice and dice that records by something of more cardinality here, and I'm going to go into provider type across the side. So no longer we're going to slice and dice by 3. We're going to slice and dice by hundreds. So what we've done here is we've actually sliced and diced that data across 80 million records across a variety of different of provider types across the bottom here. So that's the power of Eureka. Then, when I'm ready and I've found what I need, I can then take this back to my workbook by clicking Create Sheet. And what we're doing now is we're going to create a new sheet. We're going to take our data back, and now we're able to use the familiar Datameer experience to wrangle this data, to connect this data, to join this data to other sources, and finish and complete my analytic use case. To me, this is amazing, right? This is a pretty amazing thing, because what this allows me to do is continue my journey. Okay. With that said, what I can do is the other things I can do is I can sort and I can group off of these things. And what I love about Datameer is that I have a zero-code interface, right? Everything is drag and drop. Everything is point and click. And I can actually select different attributes and do sorting. I can do different kinds of things. And the other thing that I like is that I can start to build k-means clusters. And I can start dragging and dropping objects inside of this k-means cluster, like so. And my cluster will start to form right in front of my eyes, right? And this is pretty amazing. We're actually going to generate three centroids of clusters of data. And it gives me another feature and functionality that I can use. And this is our advanced, our smart analytics functionality that allows it to do that. So, of course. Anyway, so I'd like to say thank you very much for this, and it's been great.